Well, good morning, gentlemen. All right, welcome to the last Bloodhound workshop of the year, and we'll go into the Christmas and New Year's Eve break, and then pick back up. I believe the second week of January. I believe it is. Yeah. So, well, let me take a look. See who's in the room. Um, hmm. Well, let's see. Yeah, there's two names here I'm not quite sure of. So before we get started here, let me just ask if there's anybody new in the room today, new to these workshops. And the question is, would you like to hear the workshop introduction? All right, so the workshop introduction is I'll explain what is done in these workshops and what we do not do in these workshops. Also, I'll explain how the recordings work. And then lastly, I'll explain what custom indicators I can install in my machine, in case you have a question about, using a custom indicator, obviously. So, all right. So if anybody would like to hear that workshop introduction, let me know. I'll get that out of the way first. And let's see here. So while I'm giving everybody a little moment to get back to me on that, just a side note here. So NinjaTrader has released another update here, or another patch with essentially just a couple of fixes in it. So just be aware of that. So they are now on 8.1.6.2. So we're on 1.6.2 now. So, yeah. And let's see here. All right, let's see what Doug has. So Doug sent in an email. Okay, no, I haven't. That hasn't come through yet. So yeah, that's part of the problem with sending emails in at the last minute is quite often ticketing systems do take a little time to kind of run the emails, through their system before it shows up for us. So let me take a look here and see what I have. Let's see. No, I don't have anything yet there, Doug. We'll just give it a moment here. Yeah. All right, so while I'm waiting for Doug's email to come through, let's see if anybody else has anything. Randy has Randy's asking, any new updates or new programs coming out soon? I take it you mean for shark indicators there, Randy. So no, nothing that I am aware of. So, yeah, just the only thing I am aware of is just this new NinjaTrader update there. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, no problem there, Doug. I mean, we'll just kind of have to wait a moment here. Well, all right, let me reload the page and see if I got anything. And, all right, there we go. And let's see, what do we have here? All right, so it looks like we have a Bollinger Band system here. And a screenshot. All right. Well, let me pull the screenshot up here. All right, so we have that. And And so now I need the system rules. Yeah, just give me a moment, folks, to kind of read through this and digest it all. Well, all right. So first thing, let's get the Bollinger on here. There we go. All right. So 4 period. Okay. Um, all right. So we're extending the a swing high essentially, or the highest high of the lower band here for 7 bars. Um, so obviously Bloodhound doesn't do that. Um, yeah, so if you had a custom indicator there, Doug, to do that, that would be great. So in the meantime, we can use the swing highs and lows, but this 7 bars, that's going to require a custom indicator there. So, yeah. So, all right. So let's just work on this part here, extending the swing high of the lower band. All right. So there we go. So we have the lower band on there, and let's get to our indicators. And let's see if the swing highs will do the job there. Let's see. All right. Number of swings, 2. Swing strength. All right. Well, so you're going to have to figure out what the swing strength needs to be set at. But I'm going to take a guess here as a starting point. based on this rule here. So the lower band needs to step down for at least 2 bars. So that would be, yeah, so I think a swing strength of either 2 or a swing strength of 3 is going to be required. I'm going to just go with 3 for now. So, yeah, so it's possible to get a signal after this minimum 2 bar step down. Yeah, so a signal occurs when the bar closes above that highest high, yeah, swing point there. So, all right, yeah, I'm gonna go with 3. We'll see if that works out there. And let's see here. All right, so I'm gonna turn off the swing lows here. So we're just focused on the widest tops, which is the swing highs there for the swing indicator. But then we also need to feed in the Bollinger. So let's change the input there. All right, adjust the properties there. Plot, let's see, on the lower band. All right, and let's see, panel, same as input series, yes. All right, cross your fingers, see what we get. So, all right, yeah, so there's a swing low, and another swing low. I mean, sorry, swing high. Mm-hmm. Let's see. All right, so that, yeah, so I guess this is kind of questionable, but so that's a high point, but it didn't step down. Um, that is the swing high. Hmm. Um, yeah. Well, yeah, so you might have to find a better swing indicator here to identify those highest highs, right? So yeah, so these highest highs, that's not what Bloodhound does. That's what your custom indicators do there. So maybe Ninja Trader's swing indicator might be more appropriate. Um, I'm not sure. So you'll kind of have to test around here, test some other various kind of swing pointing indicators to find that highest high there. Although, let's see. Well, let me take a look at something else here. All right, so we have another support indicator here, right? That comes free with the installer. So inside of, come on, inside of tools, there we go, is the Chameleon. There we go. And so Chameleon has this high bounds and low bounds, and so what we're interested in is the high bounds. let's see. Basically, yeah, the high bounds. You can put a look back period in there. So if we put, I think 3. No, that's not going to be the highest high. Um, yeah, essentially the high bounds and the low bounds. The logic is almost, I think, almost exactly the same as the Dachshund channel. So the Dachshund channel is a little, has something a little extra in it. But actually, yeah, now that I think about it, that's not going to work. I mean, it works if the market just steps down, steps down, steps down. But where is it? Um, yeah, in this situation here, this high would actually be the new high. Um, yeah. So, yeah, I'm just gonna go with the swing. Yeah, I'm gonna cancel that and just stick with the swing highs here. So you'll have to kind of figure out exactly, what works to finding these highest highs the way you like it. So, right, there's a lot of variability here that hasn't been answered. Like what happens in a situation like this, right? So we can see from the green line there that right, it switched from that high to that high, right? Um, all subjective because it says here for 7 bars, right? But you need to be able to generate a signal after 2 bars. So, yeah. So yeah, so there's some missing information as to how exactly you would handle, when the market's a little bumpy like this. Let's see, where else? Where was it? Yeah, here's a good situation here. Right, market's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Generating all kinds of local, 1 or 2 bar high points. What do you do there? Whatever. So I'm just going to go with this here, and we can work on some of the logic here for permitting the system here. So let's see here. Yeah, so extending for 7 bars. Yeah, I don't know of any way to limit, um, the signal to that 7 bar limit. Because again, you would need a custom indicator that essentially just stops plotting after 7 bars. Um, you know, you would need a custom indicator that no longer provides a swing high anymore, and then Bloodhound couldn't find this bar closing above that high, right? So if that high is no longer plotted, then you couldn't identify that crossover point there. Yeah. Hmm. So let's see here. So this step down. Well, all right. Actually, yeah. Now that I've had more time to absorb all this and kind of think about the details, actually, I'm going to abandon the swing highs because that logic, for the swing highs and lows, the logic from the original indicator is a little more complex, and you can see the issue here. And man, it is hard to see that green on that orange. Yeah, there's no darker orange there. Right. All right, that helps a little bit. All right, so what I'm trying to point out here with this swing highs and lows is, so like that high point, right? It took 2 bars to identify it. That high point only took 1 bar, right? So you can see the logic for identifying the highs is a little more complex. Whereas that high point, it took 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. So, and because there's a lot of uh, bar counting going on here, right? 7 bars, and then we need a minimum of 2 bars stepping down. Yeah, so because of that, I'm actually going to see if we can use NinjaTrader's swing indicator here. Because the logic for that's a lot simpler. There we go. Oh, actually, okay, I'm just going to set this up real quick because I'm not sure the number of swings to use. So I just need to discover this first. All right. So looks like, yeah, a swing strength of 3 is what we need here. Yeah, so we can see a high point's identified after 2 steps down. Yeah, there's a high stepping 2 down, and then we get a plot. Okay, great. Um, yeah, so I use this little modification of Ninja Swing Indicator here. And there. Yeah, so here's Ninja Swing Indicator. And then there's this modified version that doesn't have any backfill, right? So you can see there's a little gap between the high point and when the swing indicator actually identifies the highs and low points there. So, yeah, so that was handy to kind of figure out, what swing strength I needed here. But I don't think anybody's really going to have that. I think it's available on Ninja's user app share. It's been so long, I don't remember exactly where I got this. But check on NinjaTrader's user app share there if you want a copy of that, right? So it just doesn't backfill to the high point there, right? So I'm going to remove that and actually use what everybody will have, which comes with Ninja, and set the swing strength to 3. All right, let's change our input here. Okay. There we have it. All right. So with Ninja Swing Indicator, we'll definitely have we'll have this higher high after 2 bars of price stepping down there, or the lower band. Sorry, the lower band stepping down. Yeah. Um, hmm. Yeah, I'm still not sure if this is going to work, but let's just start building it out and find out. So, yeah, sometimes you just don't know what's going to work until you actually start playing around with some solvers and Bloodhound and whatnot, and yeah, see if you can get there. All right. Well, first things first, let's put in today's workshop file name. There we go, the 18th. And let's see. Well, let's just do the signal part here. So essentially, the signal occurs when the closing price crosses above that swing high there, right? So that is simply the crossover. Let's connect that in there. All right, so we're looking to see when the close, actually more specifically, only crosses up. So the Bollinger let's see, lower band, swing high. Okay, there we go. Let's see. All right, so input A, that'll be the closing price. Let's open this up a little bit more. Yeah, so this will be the closing price. So let's switch the type over to price. There we go. The close is the default. And so now input B needs to be the Bollinger, the swing high of the Bollinger. So, all right, so let's go into input B here. Let's see. All right, so we're starting with the Bollinger there. And of course, adjust the settings like so. Right, and so, actually, sorry, I got ahead of myself. Actually, we're feeding the Bollinger into the swing indicator. So, all right, so we need to put the swing on there first. All right, there we go. So there's the swing. And we know it's a swing strength of 3. And let's see here. So we're looking for cross ups, right? Long cross ups. And that is going to be the swing high. There we go. So that'd be good. And I guess, we're going to cut the shorts out so we can leave the shorts there. So, yeah, we'll just leave the shorts there. Oops. Oh, hold on. Okay, so we have the swing indicator here. Now we need to feed the Bollinger into it. So we're going to single click on the Bollinger and hit the nest input. All right, so we're going to nest the Bollinger into the swing indicator, just like what we did on the chart here. All right, so for the Bollinger, so now let's go adjust the settings like so. And we want to feed the lower band into it there. Right. Now, if you're going to, now this does say long only trade. Now, if you did want to also create short signals, the opposite, right, then we would, right, use the opposite plot, right, for the shorts. So the lower bands are generate longs and the shorts, right, the shorts would be generated by upper bands if you want to create the opposite signal there, right? But we would also, let's see here, one more. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so let's go back to the swing indicator, and we need to do the opposite for the swing indicator as well. There we go. So long signals are using the swing high, right? Swing high being the highest high there, so that means the swing low would be used for shorts. Yeah. All right. So we have these solvers, set up for the short signals as well. But if you really only wanted longs, you could just leave it like that. So, but we'll set this up for both. And then, so now that I have this crossover, right, set up for both here, let's kill the shorts. So since this is only for longs, let's kill the shorts here. So the evaluate, we're going to set this to long only. There we go. All right. Now, so one thing that what Bloodhound sees here is, let me find a good example. Yeah, well, I guess first let's kind of point out. So the swing indicator, right, it stepped down, right? So we can see that price right, we can see here, right, it doesn't look like the closing price actually crossed that swing indicator. But really what happened is the swing indicator actually crossed price. All right, so the swing stepped down, and therefore we got this crossover here. So we're going to have to circle back around and deal with this, right? Whenever that swing plot, right, whenever it jumps down or jumps up, right, there's always the possibility of getting these crossovers there. Although there's a good chance that this will be taken care of by this. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll need to put this into a solver and use this, minimum 2 bars of stepping down. Yeah, so that'll be a solver there. So there's a good chance this will, this might get filtered out. I'm not sure yet. So, so the other, all right, yeah, so the other thing here that will notice is, all right, so price barely closed below that Bollinger high point there, and then the closing price, right, closed higher. So it generated this thing. Now, remember, the swing doesn't detect high points exactly on the bar, right? You can't. No indicator can predict the future. So because the indicator back paints, Bloodhound initially sees that back painting. So, but in real time, obviously, that back painting doesn't exist until you get to the third bar. So when you initially add an indicator that back paints, Bloodhound will see that back painted plot data. And that's why we have this crossover. Now, if I reload the chart, let's see here. Well, all right, something has changed. So I'm not yeah, my guess something has changed with NinjaTrader. So yeah, in the past, reloading the chart would flush out that back painted data from Bloodhound, and Bloodhound would see the indicator data before it back painted. Yeah, but yeah, Bloodhound is now actually seeing that back painted data. So yeah, so just be aware of that, right? The swing indicator back paints. So and yeah, real time, obviously you're not going to get that. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this. Yeah, so right there's a high point, right? And obviously the swing indicator is not plotting. So I think after this bar closes, actually no, it's going to take 2 more bars before the swing indicator starts plotting that high point there. All right, provided the Bollinger still goes lower. Yeah. All right. So let's see here. Back to back to this system here. Well, I guess yeah. Again, a comment on this. Extend the highest high for only 7 bars, right? So I guess you could write your own modified version of Ninja Swing Indicator. So it only plots for 7 bars, right? That way those swing highs there don't last forever. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So there we go. So we have 2 bars after a high point. And we still don't have, right, the swing plotting yet there. So, all right. So let's look for this. Let's look for this stepping down with a minimum 2 bars there. All right. So that is going to be a comparison solver. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to, let's say this is the current bar. So we look at the Bollinger lower band and compare it to the previous band, right? Is the current lower band lower than the previous lower band, right? So simple comparison there. There. All right. The Bollinger lower band stepping down. For input A, we'll put in the Bollinger. Oh. And there it is. Geez. All right, adjust the settings. And so let's see here. All right, so when the band step down, right, normally the comparison solver is set up to generate a short if something goes lower, but we're going to reverse that there. So, but the important thing is we're using the lower band to generate a long output here. All right. So, all right. So we're going to do the same thing for input B. There we go. So we have the Bollinger set up exactly the same. So input B and input A, the Bollingers are exactly the same. Now to look back one bar, that's what the displacement effectively does. So set it to 1, so that's 1 bar back. Now we need to go into the rules window there because, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, right, the default is if something goes lower, it will generate a short output. And then if that lower band steps higher, right, a long output, but we want to reverse that, right? We're looking for a step down to generate a long output or a long signal. So we're going to go into the rules window and reverse everything. Right, so there we go. So instead of greater than, we're going to use less than. And then instead of less than, we'll flip it to greater than. And all right, there we go. So there's our band stepping down. We're getting a long output. Now we need a minimum of 2 of those. So let's push that back. We're going to grab a look back function node here. And I'm going to turn the displacement off. And the look back, I'm going to set it to 2. And we need a minimum of 2. There. So now, all right, so here's a high. We have a step down and a step down. So there we go. So there's our second lower Bollinger band stepping down for the second bar. There. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, so here's a high, step down, step down. Yeah. All right. And let's see. All right, so here we go. So we actually have a signal there. Yeah. It looks like that should be a signal. So right? So sometimes, right, the band's going to step down, then it might step up, step down, then get the crossover, but, at least this is met here. So, from a swing high, right, assuming that, right, a signal is only good for 7, or a setup is only good for 7 bars, well, we've already used up 2 bars just for that swing high to develop, in this requirement here. So what we're going to do is take this and extend it for 5 more bars. And there we go, signal extender. Like so. There we go. It's already extended for 5 bars. So we're good there. And let's take a look at that. Yeah, so what we're looking for is a long output here. Right, so we get our second step down. Yeah, we get this long output. So let's see here. From that swing high, Oh, yeah. So it looks like we need to knock that down by 1 there. Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, yeah, I keep counting the actual swing high there. So, all right, so if we now put in an AND node, we'll have at least our basic signal in place here. All right, well, just a moment. My throat has suddenly dried out. So I'm going to leave it on this and take a big drink of water. Be right back. All right. How ironic. It's kind of raining out day, so it's nice and moist, the air. And yet, my throat, man, is all scratchy. Let's see here. All right, so let's kind of look through this and see what we have. Hmm. Well, yeah, so that's an odd signal. Yeah, so here's here's another, yeah, odd setup here. So we have that swing high, but it only stepped down once, then it stepped up, then it stepped down once, then it stepped up, and then it stepped down. All right, so what I kind of figured this was going to happen here, especially with this consolidation period here, right? Is um, there's no clarity on exactly what if this is needs to occur right after yeah, okay, there we go, after the highest high. um so um hmm, 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 hmm. Yeah, so we're missing a key component here, which is um we hmm. Now we need to know from the indicator when this um, high point is actually identified, and with and let's see, yeah, no swing indicator that I know of, tells you when a high point is actually identified there and locked in, or actually which bar back it is. So, so with the swing indicator, if a high, if a swing high steps higher, we can identify that um, sometimes. But when it breaks, is right when that plot stops, right? So we have this gap here. Um, Although, well, actually, maybe not. Let's do a little test here. Let's grab the slope indicator. And we're going to do a little test here. So I'm going to check to see if I can identify when Ninja's swing indicator actually steps higher or steps lower. Right. So that'll tell us um, when, yeah, that'll tell us when a swing high developed, and then we can start counting this stepping down afterwards. Let's see here. All right, let's plug that in there. And I think we need to actually use the data series swing high. I think this is kind of a cleaner version of the plot line for programming purposes. It's been such a long time, I don't remember what Ninja's documentation is, but so I'm just going to go with it and use it for now. So there's the swing, and so let's nest the Bollinger into it. There we go. So there we go. We're using the lower band for these long signals. And there we go. Set that up. And Yeah, so we're not getting a nice clean signal here. Like right here, obviously we can see the plot steps up. But here, when the plot disappears, yeah, we're not getting, a clean signal here. So, yeah, let's reload the chart. Let's see if that helps any. No, it does not. All right, well, let me just double check my work here. All right, so the swing, oh, no wonder, set to 5. There we go. I thought I put that on 3. Nope, still doesn't help. Hmm. Well, all right. So let's try another approach here. So with Bloodhound, we can identify, right, when this band is moving higher. So we can kind of create a extremely limited way of identifying higher highs. Right, the logic's not going to be nearly as good as a swing indicator, right, with dedicated code here. But um, let's see here. So yeah, since we're not getting, since the swing indicator kind of has this problem where the plot stops, right? If the indicator or price goes higher for these swing highs, right? So we have this problem. So instead, I'm gonna say, all right, let's look for at least a minimum of a 3-bar stepping higher for the lower band here, and then that 2-bar stepping down, right? So we have the 2-bar stepping down, but prior to that, we'll do a 3-bar stepping up. Let's see. There. Let's see here. All right, I'm all butterfingers today, man. I cannot type to save my life. All right, so let's go into the indicator and let's see here. So we're going to take out the swing indicator. Yeah, I didn't think we could do that. All right, we're going to take it all out and just replace the swing indicator with the Bollinger. There. And all right. Yeah, so as far as the slope rules, yeah, we're looking for, excuse me, we're looking for it to step higher there. Yeah, and we want a long output when it steps higher. Now, shoot, I can already see a problem here. So, yeah, right here. So we have a step higher, then it steps down, and then it steps higher, although it does step higher right there. So actually, technically, this works, but again, this is we're just looking for the ideal situation here, where the lower band stepping higher. So it's not gonna be perfect for catching swing highs there. And let's see here. All right, so I'm going to copy this look back node. So we want at least a minimum of 3 bars stepping higher. And oh, look at that. So there we go. Step, step, step. Yeah, so that one did get knocked out. So maybe let's knock it down to 2. Let's see what happens. All right, so that one's caught if we knock it down to 2. Yeah. Let's see. There. Yeah. Well, all right. I'm going to put this back to 3 here. We'll just nuke that one. So a lot of decisions are going to have to be made. And this is all having to be done again because this does require a custom indicator to identify right these higher highs of the lower band here. That has these ideally, right, it should only plot for 7 bars as as mentioned there. But more importantly, it needs to have an output that identifies when a high point has been identified. All right. Yeah, and then from that, so once the indicator identifies a high point, then we can also use this logic here, which is taking care of this rule, making sure that there's a minimum of 2 bars stepping down, right? So, yeah, so this is where all the complexities coming in, is really, identifying that high point there and synchronizing that high point. Yeah, so here more specifically, synchronizing when this high point occurred with this 2 bars stepping down. Yeah, that's the kind of difficulty there. So, let's see here. All right, so carrying on. All right, so this happens first. So this is, right, the lower band stepping higher. And so now we need to take this and extend it extend it forward another 2 bars there to see if we get to this point. Let's see here. Yeah, so I'm going to use the displacement within this look back here and set that to 2. Right? So here's our high, but now it's been shifted forward 2 bars. Right? Here's our high, shifted forward 2 bars. Here's our high, shifted forward 2 bars. So now, let's disconnect that. So these two, these two solvers should now will synchronize. When they are synchronized, then we know that we had a high point. Let's connect that in there. There. Yeah, so there we go. We had a high point, and then it stepped down. Bingo. We have a signal now that confirms that we had a high point, and we had a 2 bar stepping down. And so then from there, we can then check that crossover. And essentially, this kind of garbage here, right, this consolidation got filtered out. Now, also, because this, isn't, because this isn't using a custom indicator, right, that's, precisely coded to, identify what really qualifies as a swing high, and so forth. This clear high point here got filtered out because the lower band did jump up, then it jumped down, then it went up and up. So, yeah. So again, this is a good illustration that Bloodhound does not replace custom indicators. Right? You still need custom indicators to do the custom work that you want done. So, because it very well could have happened that we had this 2 bar drawdown, and then the market could have just shot right up and could have missed a good signal there. But but since we're missing this custom indicator here for the swing highs, this is what we got. So now, let's see, back here. All right, so we do have our setup here. So essentially we have a signal showing this, right, after the higher high. So the after the higher high is, again, this logic here, right? So this is looking for the lower band to move higher. And then this is looking for the lower band to step down 2 bars, thus defining this with that 2 bar minimum. All right, so now we just need to extend 5 more bars, and that kind of takes care of this, 7 bar extension maximum, all right, or 7 bar kind of lifespan, of this setup here. So again, we'll just connect that into the signal extender. And let's see. Yeah, so take a look at that. All right, yeah, so with this new logic, we do need to go back to a 5 bar extension. And let's see. All right. Yep. So there's a high. Great. Mm, Hmm. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure how to address this. Although maybe this is a good thing that the swing indicator didn't identify this because price didn't actually come down below. Yeah, I'm not sure what to do there, but I think everything's looking good so far. Let's see what we have. So now we still are using a swing indicator to identify when the close, right, crosses above the higher highs, right? So yeah, you have to absolutely have to have some kind of swing indicator that can plot the high points forward in time. Um, there. So right. So the only way that, right, this crossover could ever work is with a swing indicator, right? So we can compare the closing price to a plot line there. Um, yeah, let's see. So we have something there. Let's see, we're missing that. Um, oh, because it identified, excuse me, sorry. So yeah, that was identified as the high because it stepped down, and this run up. Oh yeah, there weren't enough bars stepping higher. So yeah, maybe yeah, maybe the pre high point there, right? So this guy, the Bollinger, the lower band stepping up. Yeah, maybe that should be knocked down to only two prior bars. And let's see here. All right, yeah. And there. So now we get that signal there. All right. And we got the signal there. And let's see. Yeah, we do have a signal there. Why is that? All right. So remember at the beginning, I mentioned that um, when you're working with a swing indicator, sometimes you get these false positive crossovers because the swing stepped down. It wasn't that the close actually crossed up and above, but rather the swing crossed down, right? Effectively creating a cross up. Yeah, so now we do actually have to address this problem here. Actually, we have two of them right here. Yeah, same problem here and same problem here. Um, so let's see here. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna try a slope solver here. And we're going to plug in the swing indicator. Yeah. plug that in and set it to 3. And we want to look at the swing lows. Yep, swing lows 4. Yeah, swing lows for longs. And then we're going to go into the rules window here. And we're going to reverse this. So we want a long output if that swing line actually falls. And I'll flip it for the shorts here. Oh, and of course, it needs to be the swing of the Bollinger. There we go. Nest that in there. All right. Look at the lower band for those longs. Yeah, so I'm expecting a long output when that swing line, right, steps down and it steps down again, it steps down again. Let's try. Let's do a little reload here. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So, right. So normally, again, when a plot moves lower, right, typically you're going to get a short output there, and so everything was being reversed in here to address that. But all right, that doesn't seem to be working. So I'm going to set everything kind of normally. Right. So, right. Usually you look at the upper band for long signals, lower band for shorts, and same with the swing. I'm going to reverse those as well and see if that helps. Oh, and I need to put this back to the default settings as well. Yeah, I'm still not getting that step down marked. So let's see here. All right. So let's try something else here. All right. So instead of the slope solver, let me grab a comparison. All right. So I'm going to take the same swing with the nested Bollinger, indicator setup that we're using in the slope, and I'm just going to plug it into the comparison solver here as well. There. All right. So we have the swing set up. So now let's plug in the Bollinger, or nest that in, sorry. There. There we go. Set up our plots. Okay, that's input A. Input B is going to be the same setup. All right, once again, we'll nest the Bollinger in. There. And so input A is going to be the current, right, the current bar, and input B is going to be one bar back. So it's going to set that displacement there. And, well, all right, we got that one. Let's see, that one is not showing up. Let's try to reload again. We're definitely getting some unexpected results here. So I'm just double checking my indicators on the chart to make sure I had everything set up correctly. So yeah, swing high. Lower band. This might actually be part of the problem. Yeah, this could be part of the problem here. I don't know if NinjaTrader has fixed this issue with all of their indicators. I'm pretty sure they had a year or two ago, but as you can see, when you're nesting on the chart, right, you have to pick a specific price here instead of just saying the open, high, low, and close all prices, because the Bollinger, I believe the standard deviation needs the high and low prices as well. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, it could be the fact that only the closing price is being fed into the Bollinger. So if the Bollinger does need the high and low prices, yeah, then yeah, we're gonna have a problem. But everything does look like I have it set up correctly on my chart. Yeah. Ah, oh, there we go. All right, that 3 didn't get that swing of 3 in there. There we go. Let's check the other one. Ah, there we go. There we have it. All right. So that swing strength of 3 didn't stick. There we go. All right. So, all right, there's all the steps down. And now with that, I'm going to swap that. Actually, no, I guess we don't need to swap it. So going back to our signals. Yeah, so there's a signal there, right? The swing step down. Another signal, the swing step down. Right, so I'll kind of mark that there. Right, so we want to kill those. So let's see if I invert. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I swapped it and I inverted our comparison solver. And when we look at the output here, whenever the swing indicator steps down, it's missing a long output, right? So effectively, when that swing indicator steps down, a long signal cannot be generated. There. All right. And that is what we wanted. So let's see here. There we go. So this effectively is going to block those signals when the swing high steps down. All right, let's connect that up. And let's see, do we have any others in here? No, well, at least we have those two. All right, so now, let's see, I'll move that down here, connect that in, and there we go. So now those signals disappeared. There. Let's see. All right, so, yeah, the slope solver. Oh, that's right. Okay, yep. All right, so going back to the slope solver here, I should explain that. Well, actually, let me go back into the settings here. All right, so that swing is on 3. That Bollinger looks good. I wonder if that would have fixed it. Yeah, I gotta say, I don't know what I'm seeing. I mean, there's some reason for it. Oh, there we go. I hit reload and it went away. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why the slope solver is not working here. But what I was going to say is it should at least work on the first step down. But yeah, because right, a swing indicator, it plots a flat line and then it steps down again. Let's see. No, sorry, I'm thinking of the inflection solver. Sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking of the inflection solver here. So, yeah, so just, yeah. All right, I'll just do this real quick here. So the inflection solver, I don't want to get too far off track here. But the inflection solver, right, sometimes you can use the inflection solver to identify these step downs, but you can only identify the first step down with an inflection solver. But because first you need to have a step up, and then the indicator can go flat, and then when it steps down, that is technically recognized as an inflection, but only after the indicator had stepped up, and then the indicator stepped down once. And then if the indicator goes flat and steps down again, there's no inflection there because the previous inflection was a step down, and so the second one cannot be. If the second one is a step down, that's not an actual inflection. So yeah, you need a step up in between before you can get a step down identified, and another step down. You need a step up. So yeah, just a little kind of side note about the back end coding for the inflection solver. Yeah, and as far as the slope solver, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. So let's just get rid of it. Didn't work out, not as I expected. And let's get rid of that inflection solver. All right, connect that back up. There. So I think that's as far as we can go with this. And let's give this a name here. All right. There. All right, so I'm going to take a moment to kind of look through the chart here and see if there's anything weird going on. All right, so that took place after the 7-bar plot limit there. Right, so if you wanted to kind of resolve that and see that signal there. All right, we just need to go to the signal extender and just extend that up. There we go, just needed one more. So that was bar number 8. So, well, there we go. So I'm going to pop that down to 5. There. Let's see. Yep, same thing here. And it looks like that's about 9 or 10 bars out. Yeah. All right, good signal. And yeah, let's see. Yeah, nothing can be done about this. Yeah, because the right Ninja swing indicator, or no, I should reverse this. The Bloodhound logic, right? We had to kind of put in our own logic to identify high points, which isn't the exact same logic or code for the swing indicator. Yeah. So, right. So the Bloodhound logic would have identified this as a high point. And then we had 2-step down. Yeah. And there's our cross up. So, yeah. So nothing can be done about that. Not without that custom swing indicator that can tell you when exactly a swing point was started, right? So again, that custom indicator, we'd need it to tell us either on the second bar or on the third bar, right, that hey, a high point was just now identified. So um, well, yeah, I'm kind of thinking to myself here about this. So we could eliminate this if a signal was not allowed on the second step down. Um, but I don't know, right? That's all subjective, of how you want to manipulate the system there. Um, so if we go into logic there, right? So these two look back nodes is what's allowing a signal on that second step down. If you wanted to wait for the third step down, right, that could fix this, but I think that's really kind of a bad fix. Yeah, you're really fixing something that where the real problem is coming from the disconnect between, the high points that this logic is identified versus the high points, the swing highs that the swing indicator is identifying. Yeah, so it's probably not a good solution. Let's see here. All right, there we go. Just name that AND node so we know what it's doing. There. Let's see, that's right. So we eliminated, at least we got some of those false positive signals out of there. Here, another problem, because the swing indicator isn't actually providing the identification of a high point here. So obviously we had a high point, but because it didn't step up very smoothly, right? We had a step up and then we had a step down, right? That one was missed. Yeah. So another symptom of not having the appropriate custom indicator there. Well, all right. Yeah, I think that's as far as we can go with this. So, there. All right. So let's just kind of summarize what we've built here. All right. So this here, this logic here is identifying when basically a perfect high point has been identified, right? So the lower band has to step higher for 2 bars and then step down for 2 bars, right? So this is before the high point, right? This is the stepping up part, and this is after the high point. This is the stepping down, right? Yeah, so that's essentially this right here. Yeah, so it's identifying right the highest high there, and then the 2 bar stepping down. So the actual signal or the trigger, right, that crossover there, well, that is this solver here. It's simply just a crossover solver there, right? Looking for the closed to cross up, right? It's cross up because the evaluate is set to long only. So we're not gonna see any short signals coming out of this AND node here, since the evaluate set to long only there, right? And I think maybe let's see if any of these other solvers. Okay, yeah. So remember, this is the stepping up to the high point here. This also has an evaluate set to long only. So that means out of this AND node, you can only get a long output for the stepping higher. So you won't get the reverse of, yeah, you won't get a short when the steps down. So, yeah. And so limiting, right, this high point, limiting it to 7 bars, right? So essentially limiting this setup here for 7 bars. Well, that is our signal extender is effectively doing that, right? So we know that the high point is only identified 2 bars after the higher high. So we just extend this condition forward for 5 more bars, and then that gives us our 7 bar limitation there. Right. So again, there we go. So it's a signal extender is doing that 7 bar limitation, right? And then the last node here, this comparison solver, this is that's eliminating false positive crossovers, right? So really, yeah, this is up here kind of compensating for the crossover solvers here when you're dealing with swing indicators. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, here we go. So we have to go back. Yeah, so there we go. So it's fixing when a swing indicator steps down and generates those false positive cross ups of price. Yeah. So that is what this is resolving here. There. So I'll just leave it down there. All right. So, all right. Well, with that, let me take a look at the Q&A window and see what kind of follow-ups we might have here. Let's see here. Yeah, so I guess Doug's comment about using the signal extender for the persistence. Yeah, I think that apply to that signal extender there. Yeah, so Doug's asking, yeah, so again, going back to, um, yeah, going back to this, extending the highest high for 7 bars. Yeah, Doug's asking, yeah, why not just use a solver with the reset there? Um, let's see. Yeah, that could be done if we had a custom indicator um, that told us when that highest high was detected. So, but yeah, we don't have that. Yeah, so instead we have this mechanical higher high detection. And it also works for lower low detection as well. So remember these comparison, let's see, one's a slope, one's a comparison. Yeah, but both of these solvers were set up to identify high points on the lower band and also low points on the upper band. So, um, but in any case, since we do have a mechanical bar counting system, we didn't need to use a reset. We could just, since the beginning is counted 2 bars, we know that we only need to extend for 5 bars here. Yeah, if we did have a custom swing indicator that maybe didn't have the option to turn the swing lines off after 7 bars, then yeah, as long as that swing indicator, had some kind of output that said, hey, a high point or a low point was detected, then we could use that to then kill the signal extender. Yeah, but that was not the case here. And let's see, one last. Let's see. Yeah, so Doug is asking, well, what about using an inflection solver for identifying those high points? Sure. Yeah, just keep in mind though that an inflection solver is gonna find high points all over the place. Um, let's see. So that would be identified as a high point. I know there was a better spot here that was really choppy for that lower band. Yeah, here we go. So that would be a high point. That would be a high point. Which actually those look okay. Yeah. Yeah. So here we go. Here's a good one. So that's a high point. So the inflection solver would say, okay, yeah, we stepped up and then we stepped down. There's a high point. Right. There's a high point. There's a high point. There's a high point. Yeah. So the inflection solver just looks for changes in direction. It's not looking for, okay, you need X number of bars stepping higher and then X number of bars stepping lower. No, that's not what the inflection solver is doing. So yeah, so that's why this was needed here to kind of limit what actually qualifies as a high point. So saying you need at least X number of bars stepping higher and then X number of bars stepping lower. Whereas the inflection solver, it's just going to identify every step up, step down, step up, step down, So, yeah. All right, so that's the issue with the inflection solver. All right, and we have one more here. Yeah, good question there. So Doug is asking if I had used the swing no backfill indicator, would that have eliminated some of the problems? No, no, it wouldn't um, because it still doesn't have that output telling us when a high point was identified. Yeah. So we need to have that output that says, okay, a swing high was identified, and then synchronize that with this two stepping down. Right? So this two bar stepping down needs to synchronize with the high point being found. And essentially that would eliminate this logic, and that would eliminate the problems. Yeah. So, yeah, let's see here again. Where was that signal? Here it is. No, that's not it. No, it's not that one. Never mind. Hmm. It's this one. Okay. Yeah, I should mark it here. There. Yeah, so we can see, right, the swing indicator identified this swing high way back. So that 7-bar limitation, ended somewhere around here. And the reason why we got this signal is because, right, our logic here, which is not synchronized with the swing indicator, right, the logic identified this here as a high point, right? So we had a high point, 2 bars stepping down, and then a crossover. So, so the no backfill indicator still would have identified this as a high point, and it would not have identified that as a high point. Yeah. So, yeah. So again, the missing piece that's needed in a custom swing indicator is to have a secondary output that tells us when a swing high was identified, right? Just give us like a +1 output saying, hey, a swing high was identified, and another output that tells us when a swing low was identified, right? And we could take that, and this would be replaced with a threshold solver, right? And that threshold solver would just be reading that output that says a swing high was identified, right? So, yeah. So it'd look like that, right? And then we would have a perfect synchronization with the swing indicator, which is plotting the high points there. So, there we go. All right. Now, so yeah, the swing no backfill indicator all it did is, without the back painting, it helped me kind of dial in what swing strength to use for identifying, dialing in, trying to find um, swings that took 2 bars or 3 bars to develop. Uh, so maybe, yeah. So if I knock this down to 2, um, right? Yeah. So we can see that steps down. So that might be a reasonable solution. Yes, we have that. Well, hmm. Well, all right. Let's actually modify all the solvers here to use a swing strength of 2. Let's see. All right, so I'm just going to go through the solvers on the solvers panel. Okay. There, so it's only these 2 solvers here that have the swing indicator in them. There. All right, let's see what that does. Um, hmm. Um, doesn't look like we should still get a signal there. Let's see what's going on. Ah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Just a little reload there to reload all the indicator data. There. All right. So it took care of one there. We still got those. And yeah, actually, um, hmm. So we have high from the swing indicator, but we don't have a 2-step down. Ah, yeah. So see, we still have, we're still dealing with that disconnect from when a swing high is identified, not knowing when the indicator is identifying it. Um, hmm. Yeah, so we have this swing high and then a 2-bar step down, and then it extends forward. Let's see. Ah, okay. You know what? Maybe we can fix this. So, So what I'm going to do is, if the swing line is no longer flat, right? So we know the swing line came to an end and some other swing points developing when that swing line is no longer flat, right? Yeah, so here, right? This swing is flat, 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 flat until a new swing point starts to develop. So we can identify when that swing line is flat here. And let's see. All right, so I have a comparison solver, right, that's identifying when that swing steps down. And the great thing about this is it already has my swing indicator, right, and Bollinger already plugged into input A and input B. So I'm going to make a copy of this, paste it down here, and it kind of saved me some time setting up the swing and the Bollinger twice here. And let's see here. So this is gonna identify when there is a swing line change, right? So when that swing line changes, let's turn off the invert and the swap, and we just need to go into the rules window here, and yeah, we want to know when the swing line of the current bar does not equal the swing line of one bar back. All right, so remember, input A has a displacement of 0, so that's the current bar. Input B is 1 bar back, right? The displacement set to 1. Yeah, so if those two plots of those two different bars are no longer equal, that's what we're looking for. And I guess let me just double check. Yeah, 2. Okay. Oh, actually, yeah, swing high. Swing high. Now, I thought that would have worked. Okay. Well, I'm not sure why the not equals didn't work, but this is what I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for um, that gap there when, yeah, when the plot changes. Um, Great. Yeah. Let's see here. All right. I'm going to just put this back to using the plot and not the data series. There. And yeah, good. This is what I'm looking for, right? So that plot stops, right, as the lower band starts stepping higher. Yeah. So we only have an output when, right, when that plot is not changing here. And so now, um, there, invert that. Yeah, I was so focused on that, I lost my train of thought. Let's see here. Um, oh, let's see. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, this is why I like to circle stuff. All right. Uh, there we go. There. Should have marked that all up before I went off on another train of thought. There we go. All right. Yep. So we're fixing that because this is our swing high. That didn't have a two-step down. Okay. And okay, there we go. So when our swing line comes to an end, we have an output. Yeah, that tells us that the swing indicator is changing. It's finding a new high point or finding a new low point. So this will be used as a reset. I guess I'll move this up here. Yeah, there. this can be used as a reset. There. So let's, yeah, there we go. All right. That is working. So here's our swing high, high point. And we get to our second bar stepping down, right? And that swing line is still plotting. And then that swing line changes, right? And the plot turns off. So that extension is turning off. So there we go. All right. So that killed that signal there. All right. And I think that actually will work for those points right there. Right. Let's see. Yeah, so our swing line steps down, we have an output. Swing line steps down, we have an output. Yeah, so I think we may not even need this solver anymore. So let's disconnect it. And yeah, all right. So we're able to take that out of the equation. So I'll just leave it up there, just in case somebody needs it for something else. All right, so again, this here is blocking signals when the swing high steps down. And I think it's actually there. All right, so I'm just gonna set both of the indicators up so it's a little more universal. So right now, yeah, it was only set up to work on swing highs. Yeah. So I have the upper band and lower band selected. Up, so swing high, swing low selected. And I just double check the other input. Yeah, upper band, lower band. Swing high, swing low. There. Well, well, that all broke it. Let's see. All right. Oh, you know what? Still trying to fix this. Yeah, shoot, I don't want to really kind of mess up make the video editing complicated. Yeah, I guess if anybody wants to see how to do this, that should be just done for another topic there. Instead of trying to fix that within, a different topic. All right, so I will just remove that there. All right. Yeah. All right, so continue on to, yeah, just kind of do a little scanning through here. Oh, let me do something else here. Here's something I like to do from time to time. Sometimes it's kind of handy to look at one other element of your system here. And so what I want to look at is this signal extender. So we can connect that into an OR node. And then this OR node, I'm going to knock the output down to 0.2. Right, so I can see it, but it's not intrusive. And then we need one more OR node to join both of these outputs together. There. All right. And so with this little extra, right, I can see when this signal extender is on and when it is not. And so now when I look at the chart, there we go, right? So I can see, okay, we had a high point here, and the signal extender turned on, and then I can see that crossover, and then I can see when the signal extender turned off. All right. So, if you're kind of scanning through and you're wondering, okay, why didn't I get a signal there? Well, that's because the signal extender never turned on because, yeah, we got one step down and that was it, and then a step up. So there was no two steps down of that lower band. And we can see here that, yeah, that signal extender didn't turn on, allowing for that cross up to generate a signal. Yeah. And like over here, price did cross above the swing high, but of course that signal extender turned off a long time ago. All right. So essentially we can see how long is that 7-bar limit good for. Right. This, 7-bar limit, we can actually see that lifespan now by that partial output there, right? So this OR node here, of taking the signal extender and essentially we're reducing it down to 0.2, right? So we can see that little bit of an output there. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, so far so good. Yeah. So seeing that signal extender is kind of handy here. So look at that. We have a single bar here because yeah, we have a high point and then a step down, and then that swing, that high point got killed as the lower band stepped higher. Yep. So it only lasted for one bar. But at the same time, again, we're only looking at that signal extender. So that's irregardless of the fact that price is higher than that band. So obviously there would never be a crossover, but yeah. Um, all right. Yeah, so that looks good. That looks good. Yeah, all right. So I'm kind of satisfied. Um, there. Um, all right. Well, yeah. So with Doug's last comment, we did kind of make a little further improvement there. So essentially, another way of looking at, did the swing indicator line make any kind of change, and using that to kill or reset the signal extender. So, all right. Well, gentlemen, all right. I think that kind of concludes this question here from Doug. Let's see. Well, all right. Well, most of you guys are still hanging out there. Let's see, where are we at? Wow, we're at the 2.5 hour mark already, man. Um, wow, yeah, I didn't think this was going to take that long, but yeah, but there was a lot of situations here, yeah, not covered, but more importantly, the difficulty of not having that custom indicator identifying those high points. So having to make some compromises here between that missing identification there. I'm trying to mix that in with some Bloodhound doing that. So, all right, well, gentlemen, let's see. Yeah. So with that, I'll hang out for another 5 minutes or so to see if anybody else has any Bloodhound questions or maybe some follow-ups on this. All right, and if I don't see any other Bloodhound questions coming in here in the next 5 minutes or so, then I think we'll chalk it up for another workshop. Um, yeah, no workshop accomplished, and begin our holiday break. That's right. So again, gentlemen, if you have some other questions, go ahead and get it in there. So I'll give you at least 5 minutes, or maybe a little bit more to get that done. All right. And so in the meantime, let's see. Oh, okay. So while I was talking, there we go. Doug got something in here. All right. Yeah, you're welcome, Doug. Um, so, yeah, when I first looked at this, I didn't think it was going to be that complicated either. Um, but that happens from time to time. Yeah, yeah. Every once in a while, you get kind of yeah, you get a system here where you really can't see the blind spots until you start building it. Um, and then things become apparent that it is more difficult than first appears at first glance. Yeah, that happens from time to time. All right, so there we go. That was just a comment from Doug. So, all right, yeah. So again, gentlemen, I'll just mute my microphone until another question comes in here. All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna call it. So, yeah, doesn't look like there's any questions, and yeah, as I kind of expected, it definitely gets a lot quieter in the workshops this time of year. So, all right, gentlemen, everybody, enjoy, yep, your holiday break there, and I will see you guys again next year. So, yeah, and actually, um, unless I see an email coming in, I'm actually not planning on doing the Blackbird workshop tomorrow. So I have a feeling, yeah, tomorrow's last week's Blackbird workshop was pretty darn quiet, and I expect tomorrow will be the same as well. All right, yeah. So with that, gentlemen, have a good rest of your 2025, and see you again next year. All right, guys, have a good one, and see you next time. Bye bye.